Today we present a recreation of a classic tale from the golden age of radio. Some of you may remember radio. Before TV, there was radio, a period that began back in the 1920s. When television arrived in the late 40s, it created a very swift and unfortunate demise of classic radio, which was pretty much gone by the mid-50s. It finally ended when one of the last radio network drama series, Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, went off the air in 1962. As an incentive to your paying attention to the introduction as well as today's performance, I will be rewarding attentive listeners at the end of the session with some prizes based on questions asked, so definitely listen up. Like some of you, I grew up on radio, comedy, and drama. I'm older than, I think, all, if not most. Now, let's really hear it for that, because it was a fabulous part of my life, and it provided something that television never could. It provided a visual that existed only in the reader's imagination. And a very good example of it is going to be the telecast or the rebroadcast that we're going to be doing right now. If you look around the stage, you will notice there is no big set. Our fine performers are not in costume. You don't have these big productions. You don't have this memorization. The practices have been going on for months to create the big presentation, because very simply, radio drama or audio theater today was simply great actors and great scripts and getting a message across that only your mind and imagination could absorb. So being true to that form, I'm going to do the rest of the introduction by going right to the script. And it says right here, radio imagination was particularly true with the mystery and horror genre. And this afternoon's episode Escape has kind of improved that. I specifically remember listening to an episode of Escape way back when dealing with a werewolf, and I will never forget the many hours of lost sleep that night. Imaginations can be dangerous. Hooked on radio, I was a slow adapter to TV, which was pretty simple in the beginning. Of course, there was Captain Video and Milton Berle, and my favorite old radio to TV series, Dragnet. And of course, there was the TV adaptation of radio's My Favorite Wife, which they renamed something called I Love Lucy. So radio was kind of the starting ground of a lot of great television. Some of it made the transition, some did not, simply because the medium was very different. In the early days of TV, many of radio's big series ran on both medium, such as mentioned in Dragnet. One of the most unusual was Gunsmoke. On the radio, it starred William Conrad, who had a big voice and the bulk to match. It often joked that if he was the host instead of James Arness as Matt Dillon, the horse would have ridden him. That did not stop him from a very successful career with such TV series as Cannon and Jake and the Fat Man. Today, audio drama is back, an explosion of audiobooks and, thanks to COVID, podcasts. Yet nothing can beat the impact of a full cast and full sound effects in a live performance, which I hope you will enjoy today. Today, in preparation for Halloween, we offer you both a treat and a very, very scary trick. First, something about the series Escape, from which today's episodes were drawn. It was radio's leading anthology series of suspense and high drama. It aired on CBS Radio Network from the 1947 to 1954. It essentially enthralled listeners right from the opening introduction delivered by William Conrad. And as a real pleasure today, the introduction to today's episode will feature that actual original introduction by William Conrad. Listeners were very quickly set up for something more than romance. There were over 250 episodes of Escape. Many of the storylines included adaptations of novels, and they always involved dire life and death circumstances featuring science fiction and supernatural tales. Some of the memorable episodes, including Daphne du Maurier's The Birds, Ray Bradbury's Mars is Heaven, and even Richard Connell's The Most Dangerous Game, which became a fabulous film. The series featured many well-known authors like Edgar Allan Poe, H.G. Wells, Jack London, Joseph Conrad, Robert Louis Stevenson, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Rudyard Kipling, Somerset Maugham, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Alfred Hitchcock. It also featured then and future famous stars such as Art Carney, Edmund O'Brien, Hans Conried, Jack Webb, Jeff Chandler, Raymond Burr, Van Heflin, Victor Mature, Vincent Price, and as the often mentioned, William Conrad. Escape made it to TV on CBS for a short period of time in 1950, and I guess that TV could not live up to the mental visual power that radio provided. This afternoon's production is one of the most famous, and in line with the Halloween season, is the most spine-tingling. Skelton Key. I won't give away the storyline, but get ready for man versus hordes of horror. The half-hour radio play was adapted from an Esquire short story by French writer Georges Dudouz. It was so successful, it reappeared in 1950 on the series with Vincent Price, and again in 1953. So now, let's get on with the show. Welcome Jason Summers and the Sandbox production of Skelton Key. Jason.
Tired of the everyday routine? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all?
We offer you Escape! Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
Tonight, we escape to a lonely lighthouse off the steaming jungle coast of French Guiana, and a nightmare world of terror and violence, as we bring you again, in response to hundreds of requests, Skelton Key, starring Vincent Price.
Picture this place. A gray tapering cylinder welded by iron rods and concrete to the quay itself. A bare black rock, 150 feet long, maybe 40 feet wide. That's at low tide. At high tide, just a light, rising 110 feet straight up out of the ocean. And all about it, the churning water, gray-green, scum-dappled, warm as soap and swarming with gigantic bat-like devilfish. Great violet schools of Portuguese man-of-war, and yes, sharks, the big ones, the 15-footers. And as if that wasn't enough, there was a hot, dank, rotten-smelling wind that came at us day and night off the jungle swamps of the mainland. A wind that smelled like death. Set in the base of the light was a watertight bronze door. And in you went. And up. Yes, up and round, past the tanks of oil and the coils of rope, cases of wicks, racks of lanterns, sacks of spuds and cartons and cans, and up and up and up. Round and round. Over the light storeroom was the food storeroom, and over the food storeroom was the bunk room where the three of us slept. And over the bunk room was the living and cooking room. And over the living and cooking room was the light. She was a beauty, balanced like a ballerina on the glistening steel axle of her rotary mechanism. At night, you'd lie there on the stone deck of the gallery with the light revolving smoothly and quietly over your head, easing her bright white eye 360 degrees around the horizon. You'd lie there watching to see that the feeders kept working, that everything ran right. It wouldn't be bad. The other two fellas snoring in their sacks 2 levels down. You'd smoke your pipe to kill the stink of the wind, and it wouldn't be bad. About those other two, Louis and Auguste. What a pair. Louis, he was head man, was a big fella from the Basque country. Black beard, little hard black eyes, and a pair of arms that, I tell you, those arms were as big around as my legs. Yes, head man he was, and what word he let go was law. Silent fella, and although I spent the first 2 weeks trying to strike up a real conversation, the most I could ever get out of him was...
Jean, I took up this profession because I don't like people. They talk too much. It's quiet work, light tending. Let's keep it that way. You're getting to be as bad as Auguste. I thought maybe for once they'd send me somebody who could keep his mouth shut.
That was Louis. And when he accused me of becoming like Auguste, I quieted down because Auguste was the talkingest man I'd ever met. The talkingest and the ugliest. He was hunchbacked, stood 4 feet high, had red hair and big blue eyes. It seems he'd been an actor in Paris.
Played in over 200 different productions, dear boy, at the Grand Guignol. Oh, but it was monstrous, horrible, the way we used to scare the audience. I was hated, yes, they used to throw things and hiss and bare their teeth at me. Finally, it got too bad. I couldn't stand it any longer. I gave up the theater. My nerves, you understand? Yes, gave it up completely. I really did. I couldn't stand it any longer.
It all started one morning at 2:30. I was on watch, lying on the cool stone deck, pulling on my pipe, staring out at the blackness, the phosphorescent combers and the big yellow stars, when, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something show up for a second. Something the light had touched, far off. I waited for her to come around again, and when she did, there it was. A 3-master, a big one. About a half a mile off and coming down out of the north-northwest, coming straight for us. Now you must understand, our light was where it was for a very good reason. Dangerous submerged reefs surrounded us and ships kept clear. But this one, this sailing vessel, was coming straight on. I went over to the gallery door and yelled down. Louis! Louis!
Huh? What is it?
Ship! Headed for the reefs.
I'll be right up.
I had the glasses out now. I couldn't read her name, but I could see her quite plainly. All sails set, the foam creaming away under her bow, her beautiful lines. A Dutch ship, I guessed her. But why didn't she turn? Every time it passed, our light hit her with the glare of day.
Ship? Where?
North-northwest. The light will touch her in a moment.
Huh. Well, can't she see us?
Look at her. She just keeps coming on.
The squareheads.
What is it? What is it?
Watch. North-northwest.
I know what it is.
What?
The Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman. We did a play about her once. Oh, what a performance. You ghastly galleon, hag-ridden, curse-driven, must on and on.
Shut up, will you? Huh? She's luffing.
Yes.
It's a sloppy way to come about. She's derelict, that's it.
Derelict.
Abandoned. Crew left her for some reason or other. But instead of sinking, she's gone on, running before every wind.
She'll not run long, not with those reefs to break her up.
A beautiful ship. Now why would men leave a beautiful ship like that?
She didn't ram us, although we all expected it. But as we waited for the crash, she luffed again, caught some odd gust, and went about. We watched her the rest of those black hours, heeling and rocking, pushed and pulled by every stray wind, every freak current. Watched her until the dawn came, till the sea turned from black to pearly gray. And on she came again, heading for us. We all had our glasses trained on her now.
Auguste, you can kill the light.
Right, Chief.
She doesn't look so good by daylight. Think she'll ground this time? I say, do you think she'll ground this time?
Huh? This is impossible. Absolutely impossible.
What?
Here, take my glasses. They're better than yours.
All right. Well, what is it you're... I had to focus. And then my breath froze in my throat. The decks were swarming with a dark brown carpet that looked like a gigantic fungus, but undulating. And on the masts and yards, the guys and all were hundreds, no thousands, I don't know, an inestimable number of tremendous rats.
See them?
Yes, I see them.
Now we know why she's derelict.
Yes, now we know.
What are you two doing? Here, give me a look.
Yes, give him the glasses. Take a good look, Chatterbox, to give you something to talk about.
She's still heading for us.
Yes.
If she's going to turn, she better turn soon.
Suppose she doesn't.
You mean she piles up on the quay?
It's low tide.
Yes, it is.
Well, where's all the conversation, Auguste? Huh? Here, you want the glasses again? You want another look?
No.
She's still coming on.
Go away.
Turn, will you turn? I pray you turn.
Oh. Cracked up.
The rats look on the water like a carpet.
They're swimming.
Sure, they're swimming. They're ship's rats.
Yeah, but they're swimming for the rocks.
The door below, it's open.
Well, come on. And down we went, racing down the stone stairs, taking them 3 and 4 at a time. Scared? You bet we were scared.
Auguste, you get the windows. Maybe they can climb. We don't know.
Right, Chief, but hurry.
Look, you see them?
No. Oh, yes. I do, up at the other end of the rock.
Look at them.
Millions.
Huh? They smell us. Here they come. Well, close the door.
I can't. It's stuck.
Here, let me.
Made it.
Holy, that was close. Oh, look.
One got in. Look, there.
We'll get him.
Watch it. There. Yeah, they kicked him.
What a brute.
He was as big as a tomcat, bigger, and his eyes were wild and red. His teeth long and sharp and yellow. He went for us, starving, ravenous, and we fought that one rat all over the room who was, oh, believe me, I don't exaggerate, it was like fighting a panther.
I got him.
We'd better get aloft.
Yeah.
As we ran up the winding staircase, we passed the tiny windows of the various levels, and at every one was a thick, wriggling, screaming curtain of brown fur. I was ahead of Louis, and I dreaded each successive level. Suppose they had found a way in.
Look at them. Oh, will you look at them?
It's a nightmare.
Will you look at them?
The air of the gallery was thick and fetid with the stink of them. The light was dim, brown, filtered through the crawling mass that swarmed over the glass all about us. We couldn't see the sky. Nothing but them. Their red eyes, their claws, their wriggling, hairy snouts. and their teeth. The rats. They screamed and howled and threw themselves against the glass. They were starving. And we three, we stood very quietly. Oh, very, very quietly in the center of the glass room under our beautiful light. And we waited.
What can we do? What can we do, Chief?
Take it easy. Take it easy.
I can't. I just can't.
It won't do any good to stand here and shake.
That's right.
Go away. Go away. Do you hear me? Go away this
They
instant.
won't go away. Not until...
Finish it, Chief. Not until what?
Not until they've been fed.
You can take just so much horror, and then you get used to it. And they were interesting to watch, you know? They couldn't understand the glass. They could see us, and they could rush at us, but that invisible thin barrier held them off, stopped them. From time to time, we caught a glimpse of the rocks below. More rats down there, swarming brown velvet in the bright tropical sunlight. And then the tide began to rise. If only it had drowned some of them.
Ship's rats don't drown. No, sir, you can't drown one of them. They're all climbing up the tower.
This bunch around us is getting thicker.
Yeah, say what's the time?
A 6:15.
You've got the first watch on.
Right.
Wake me at 10.
I will.
Come along, Auguste.
It was getting dark. One side of the room was lit a soft, filtered red. Sunset through the rats. Oh, very pretty. I set the wicks, checked my fuel, and then lit the lamp. It caught them, lit them in their gigantic wriggling web of pale, hairless bellies, twitching red tails, bright eyes. And then I started the rotary motor. The light drove them mad. As she swung slowly and smoothly about, she blinded them in the fierce stabbing bar of light, moving continually about, ever turning, ever touching, ever moving around and around. And they, twitching and shuddering, eyes flaming when they were struck by the light, the bright light moving. And behind on the dark side of the room, so close I dared not turn my back. But you can't help turning your back when you're in a room of glass. On the dark side of the room, you couldn't see them, but only their eyes. Thousands of points of blank red light, blinking and twinkling like the stars of hell. And when I came up into the gallery early the next morning, there stood Auguste, his back to me. He was bowing to the rats, waving his arms and making a speech.
My dear audience, I am going to play once again that magnificent role which made me the toast of the Paris theater. Prelate, the evil genius of the medieval underworld. I am he who did guide the dark soul of De Rochelle into the nether parts. Do not be frightened, little children. I will not hurt you. Much.
He kept turning. I stood staring at him, horror-struck. But he didn't notice me. The man had gone mad. He kept turning, telling his stories to all the rats, leaving no one out. Auguste! Auguste!
Ah, another one, a latecomer. Take a seat on the aisle, dear patron.
Auguste, stop it, stop it!
Ginger Ray, the blood-stained monster, was my partner in iniquity. Together, we disemboweled over 400 little children, leaving their warm, blood-spattered
But he didn't
bodies
stop. He
on
went
the ground.
On and on, bowing and scraping to the rats. His big blue eyes rolling and winking, his wild red hair waving about him. I grabbed him by the arms and slapped his face. He looked at me like a child. And then his face screwed up. He looked as if he were about to cry. Go below. Go on.
Oh, very well then. Later, my dear audience, later. Matinee today.
Sure, he was crazy. But I guess we all were. A few hours later, he came back up and caught Louis and me teasing the rats. Yes. Sounds horrible. It was fun. We would get right up against the glass and make faces at them. It drove them crazy. They would scratch away, trying to get at our eyes. Louis was even cuter about it. He'd pull a piece of bread out of his pocket and press it against the glass. The rats would scramble into a solid ball, biting each other, clustering like grapes. From time to time, a whole knot of them would slip and fall the 110 feet to the surf below.
Look at the sharks.
They're eating them.
Those sharks are our friends. Here, I'll get another bunch together. Here, my beauties, that's it, pile up. Kill each other, huh? There they go.
Auguste joined us too. Very ingenious, Auguste. He learned that if he spread-eagled himself against the glass, they'd bunch and bundle against his figure. Then he'd leap back.
Look! My portrait in rats.
It went on all day. And then, I was lying in bed about midnight. I was very tired, and I was just beginning to fall off to sleep when I became conscious of a new sound. Couldn't figure it out at first. I got up, lit the lamp, and went over to the window. Even as I looked out, I saw that one of the panes had begun to sag in. They had eaten the wood away. Louis! Come quick!
What? What is it?
They found a way in. I held the glass with my hand. Now they were all going crazy, and assured of the success of this maneuver, were all nibbling away at the wood. Louis ran below and then returned with a large sheet of tin. We spread it against the window and hammered it into place. Even as we did so, we felt the heavy bodies thudding against the other side as the window gave way.
There. That ought to hold. If it doesn't, we're done for.
Rats can't eat tin?
No, they can't.
What was that?
I don't know. It came from below.
At the storeroom window.
They're in. They're swarming up the stairs.
Drop the trap.
Right.
Two of them got in.
Let's go after them.
Oh, okay. We didn't have to go after them. They came at us. I leaped to one side and grabbed a marlin spike, swung and smashed one in midair. I whirled to see Louis with the other. It had ripped his hand open and the blood was pouring out. He held his hand aloft and kicked at the snarling rat. I stepped in and swung and I got him.
Oh, my hand! He's got my hand!
That's both of them, Louis. I'll go get you something to tie that up.
Blood! Look at it, my blood! I'm bleeding!
Yeah, don't worry about it. Here. I'll wind this kerchief around it. It'll be okay.
Blood!
There. That's not so bad. Just the flesh. And then I became conscious of a new sound. They were gnawing their way through the wooden trapdoor. I watched the wood, fascinated. And even as I did, it began to give way, and a bristling, whiskery nose showed through. Louis, we've got to go up. The next level was the living quarters and the kitchen. I slammed the trap door. it too was wood.
My blood. What are we going to do?
I don't know. They'll be through this one in a minute.
The gallery. The trap door in the gallery is metal.
Good. Come on. We made it. We lay across the trapdoor, exhausted, while below us, the rats took over the entire tower. I could hear them howling and fighting over our food supply, our water, our leather. And all about us, the others screamed and glared in at us, swayed in a tangled mass, hypnotized by the ever-turning light. By morning, the air in the little room was horrible. Until now, we'd been getting air from the tower below. Now that was sealed off. And so was all our food and water. We lay exhausted, panting, waiting. And the hours crawled on. I was almost dozing from fatigue when I saw a sight that brought me to, fast.
Would you like to come in, my beauties? Would you? I hold the powers of life and death, and I can let you in, you know.
Auguste was standing by the glass, and in one hand he held a big wrench. He was tapping on the glass gently, not quite hard enough to break it. I eased myself to my feet and slowly, very slowly, tiptoed toward him.
All I have to do is tap just a little harder and...
I found a coil of wire in the toolkit, and I trussed him up, fastened him to a stanchion in the center of the room. Louis was of no help. He lay on his side, looking at his bloody hand, weak and sick as a baby. So there I was, a lunatic and a coward for company, and all about watching our little drama, the rats. The day dragged on. The supply boat wasn't due for another 12 days. I don't know what they would have done if they had come. And we had only one way of summoning them, that was to shoot off distress rockets, but the rockets were 4 floors below. And even if they'd been right there in the gallery, I couldn't have opened a window to fire them. That night I tended the light, but its flame was devouring our oxygen. The following day we lay thirst-tormented, starving, waiting. And the following night I again tended the light, but the small supply of spare wicking we kept in the gallery had become exhausted, and quite suddenly, at about midnight, the light went out. There was nothing I could do. Wicks were stored 3 levels below. Nothing I could do. Nothing. From time to time, I'd strike a match to see the clock. And when I did, it lit up the million eyes about us, all about, watching, waiting. Below, it had grown quiet. They'd cleaned us out, and now they too were waiting, all waiting. And then, the rats, quite suddenly, were silent. And then I heard it. And then I saw the sky and the stars. The rats were gone. I went to the glass. Out there on the water, a small freighter, a banana boat, showing a few lights, came softly and innocently towards us. Our light was out. They didn't know. I wanted to open the windows to call out to them, to warn them somehow, but I was afraid. What if the rats were hiding from me, tricking me? So I waited. She grounded very softly on a reef not 200 yards from the quay. Grounded so gently that the man playing the cornet, was he a passenger? A crewman off watch? Didn't even stop playing. They tried washing her back off. If I could have told them, I would have told them to save their fuel. The tide was rising. Would have floated her free. And so I waited. That's all. That's the story. The sun came up and there wasn't a rat on the whole quay. Every last one of that terrible army had left us, gone back to sea on their new ship. Auguste, insane asylum. He never recovered. And Louis, they took him into Cayenne, where he died of blood poisoning from his bite. Yes, that's the whole of it. And if you'll excuse me now, I must go set my traps. No, mouse traps. No rats in this lighthouse, I should say not. Life in the lights isn't so bad, but sometimes when I see a strange vessel approaching, I get a little nervous. Sure, somewhere on the seas there's a little banana boat without a crew. That is, without a human crew.
Thank you so much.
Yes, let's really hear it for Jason and the performers today. Jason, if you could come back and just take a moment to introduce your cast.
So,
and also take a couple of moments to talk a little bit about the Sandbox.
Oh, sure.
Right.
So my two fellow actors, Derek Tarson as Louis, and Steve Taylor as Jean. And the Sandbox Theater, for those of you that don't know, is an educational theater facility in Mamaroneck that I am the co-owner and artistic director of. It's been in existence for 14 years, so most of the time I spend my time with children and teenagers. So this was nice to get a chance to work on something a little bit more elevated and mature. Phil has been so generous to offer these opportunities to me and my theater to do these radio dramas, and Steve and Derek are two incredibly talented actors who work a lot locally, who I have the pleasure of knowing. So thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you. As I promised before, I have a few prizes to give out to those who were attentive to both the introduction and the event. And the deal is I will offer a question, and if you think you know the answer, raise your hand. And Jason, if you would, recognize which one I will respond to. Are we ready? Here we go. Question number one. I mentioned one last radio show that went off the air in 1962. What was the name of that radio show? I will continue. Question number two. In the introduction, I told where the story that we heard today was first published. Was anybody paying attention to what was considered at that time the risky men's magazine known as?
Esquire.
Esquire. We have a winner. And the prize is the full adaptation of the original production, as well as the Vincent Price version that you heard today. Question number three, and this is a choice answer. You can answer either part A or part B. Part A is, how tall was the lighthouse, or how long were the sharks? I see a hand in the back there.
15 feet.
15 feet is correct. Those were very, very big sharks. And the lighthouse itself was 110 feet tall. Before we get to a last alternate question, the last episode of a drama TV radio series to go off the air was Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. And again, that was in 1962. And it was a great series, and for no other reason, by the time it evolved into the 50s and early 60s, all the technical productions and everything had become really first class. So if you get a chance to find out about it, that series is a great one. All right, here's another one. What horror movie superstar starred in the 1950s version on the radio?
Let's go right there in the corner.
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price. See, he was paying attention. Now you can hear him in his actual broadcast of it. And I had one final question, although there's no prize, so I'm going to throw it out to you. And this is following in the footsteps of that great radio and TV game show with Groucho Marx, You Bet Your Life. There was always a final question, and the final question for today is, who was buried in Grant's tomb? Jason, if you would grab the first hand to go up. All right, thank you all. Today's production was brought to you by, and I apologize for an itinerant cough I have, so I just keep myself medicated with cough drops, by the Larchmont Library, LMC Media, the Sandbox Theater, and the Larchmont Mamaroneck Lions, who will be celebrating 100 years of community service this coming year. On behalf of LMC, if everybody would give a hand to Nate back there. As you gathered by the fact this was not a big expensive production, this is an all-volunteer operation. Nate, thank you for volunteering. Cass, thank you for volunteering. And again, we enjoy bringing this to you. The materials, including the scripts, the sound effects, and the production were all provided with the assistance of an organization called SPURDVAC. SPURDVAC stands for the Society for to Preserve, Encourage Radio, Drama, Comedy, Variety, and Comedy. They're the national organization that's really focused on expanding this concept of audio theater and audio production. If you enjoyed today's presentation and would like to know more about either the Lions or the Sandbox Theater or SPURDVAC, let me know. I have brochures on each. And and before one final cough, again, I will thank you and invite the library's Paul Doherty to come up for closing remarks. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Sandbox Theater, LMC TV. Thanks, everyone, for coming on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in October. That's all I have to say. So keep coming to our programs. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all.